phenomenon of globalization, which was claimed by many to be the answer to the world's problems, has proved to be a double-edged sword. Today it is also associated with multinational corporations exploiting cheap labor and speculative capital devastating the economies of developing countries. As much as the world's cheap labor is female, when economic disasters hit countries like the Philippines, women are often the first to suffer.
Globalization, a word which for some people conjures up an image of a world that is getting smaller, more integrated and more prosperous. Often for many others in the developing world, the phenomenon only means working for low wages in poor conditions for foreign companies. Among those who resent the downside of globalization are Asia's women workers.
The main problem for women workers here in the Philippines is low wages. That's why many of them opt to work abroad, even if the work is much harder than the work here.
I
think it is the 5-month contract that's devastating to most people. The short 5-month contracts.
As the economies of Southeast and East Asia boomed, millions of women became part of the industrial sector, which manufactured export goods like garments, toys and electrical items. Often women are the most sought after for these industries because they are believed to be docile, less prone to organize into unions and more willing to work for lower wages. However, with the arrival of the Asian economic crisis, the same women who made the economic boom possible were the first to suffer.
It is bad enough that women are to be concentrated in those type of work, which are monotonous, it's a very routinary and low-paying, in fact. But it makes it even worse for them that such companies are what you call gypsy companies. They can move from one country to another, and job security is something that is not present at all for many of these women workers.
In Indonesia, between 1980 and 1996, the percentage of women in the labor force jumped from 27.7% to 37.2%. In Thailand, it went up to 55.2% during the same period. Similarly, in China, which has seen a spurt in export-oriented industries, the number of women in the labor force increased to 55.6%.
There have been certain advantages for women as a group in globalization. Advantages which could be defined principally as a greater access to employment. Still, fundamentally, work is organized for the most part in function of a male vision of the world rather than a female one.
The problems faced by women workers as a result of globalization have been documented by the Resource Center for People's Development, a research NGO in Manila. A survey carried out in many export processing zones has shown that there is little sensitivity to the special needs of women workers.
They are put in a very difficult situation that it makes it more difficult for them even to assert their own basic rights and even to have a decent work.
Bawal sa amin yung halimbawa,
in our company, it is prohibited for single women to marry a co-worker. If there are married couples in the company, one of them is laid off by forced resignation. Also, it is forbidden to take a nap during breaks.
One of the downsides of globalization that has become evident after the Asian economic crisis is that while big multinationals have greater and greater freedom to operate, their employees often live with the insecurity of losing their jobs. To settle the imbalances created by globalization, there is an urgent need to empower workers, especially women. One way of doing this is to help and encourage the formation of trade unions that give workers greater bargaining power. And in a globalized world, what may really win them their rights is the formation of alliances across borders internationally.